Hey, welcome back to our little impromptu game level here. We're continuing to see stuff get added, a lot of cool models and cool things going on in here. To give you a preview of what's happening right now, I did go ahead and I rescaled my Gingy. I switched over back to Gingy 2.0 for my player here. Um, and he's got a little more physics going with him, so he doesn't quite run up everything, but he's got a little force to run over things now. So he just handles differently than the script that we did in our last video, but not a big deal. But I did scale him down. If you'll recall, way back when we were doing all this initial level setup, I had this little block here called average person height, and it's set at about 1.8 meters, which is the average, well, an average male height. And somehow we got crazy with our slightly cartoonish gingerbread man, and he was really at about 5.5 meters tall. He was a giant. So I've scaled him down some. He's not all the way down to 1.8 meters or unity units arbitrarily, but he makes a little more sense with some of the stuff we've got in here. Now, of course, the tacos are massive compared to him now, which is great. I want massive tacos. Anyway, I'm going to take a quick wander around the room and see what we can find here. See, we've got giant tacos. Can run into those. That's fun. I wanted to point out just a few things that have gotten added in. Just now, these lockers came in, and those are cool, and they've got some cool physics on them. Some collision. We did breeze by here earlier. We've got this cool rock formation here that I'd really like to add some collision to, so I can jump up on here. Probably won't add full physics because I don't think, especially at my new small size, I should be able to move these boulders around. But I want to get up there and see what's happening on that rock formation. So we're going to check that out. And then I've also brought in this little vault wall over here. Kind of mysterious. I have no idea what a vault wall with looks like a panel here. The system offline. Looks like the spokes are definitely engaged. This thing's locked. I have no idea what might be behind here, but I'd like to add some collision and see what's going on here. So that's our world, and we do appear to still leap quite a bit when we go running. But we've got some fun things going on. So first off, let me look at the... so I've got my vault wall here, and first thing I want to notice is, yeah, it looks kind of cool where it's at, but what's it doing out here? Right, so I've got cameras and players, I've got everything else kind of organized, but this vault wall is out on its own. So it should be inside a folder of whoever brought it in, and that would be me. So let me just pull that down there. Something to keep in mind for the sake of this particular project. That's the way we decided to organize things. So we want to keep that consistent. Now I'm going to check out the rock element. I already talked to Mr. Jose, and he was fine with me using this as an example. This is just really cool looking. For one, right? We got some cool texturing going on, some simple spherical rocks, but it's really effective. Almost a kind of a cinematic flair to it. But if I was to try and add collision to this thing, look at this, I wouldn't know where to start. Right? We've got P cubes and P cylinders all over the place, and they've got different transform nodes and things inside of them. We'll play a quick game of one of these things is not like the others, and there it is. So you see this light up. So P cube here, P cube 35 doesn't have all this other transform nodes and stuff. And so it's our actual mesh, right? And I'm going to show you, I've been guilty of the same thing myself. So we are not down on Jose. We're just going to learn a cool way to do things. So in this particular case, the model's already been imported, and I've got all these artifacts, and I don't know what to do. Well, I don't need any of these other things. So let me just go ahead and grab P cube 35 here. The mesh will always be P cube 35. Can't fix that. But inside our Unity editor, we can at least call it something meaningful. So he called the outer thing rock element, so we're going to go with that. So this is rock element or environment or whatever. This thing's just really cool. And what I can do to clean up what I've got is I can just start grabbing all these empty P cubes and P cylinders, and not that one. Make sure I don't have anything that I do need. And I can just delete those. It'll break the prefab, but makes things a lot cleaner. And at this point even, I don't even need this outer game element. So I'm going to grab that, I'm going to pull that up a level. So I've got a rock element now that actually has a mesh that's P cube 35. And I've got a rock element that's an empty object. So I'll get rid of that too. So in my scene, this is fixed, right? I've got a single mesh. I could add just a mesh collider to this, and then I'd be able to run up and down it. We could do more things here. We can try and break up the FBX, right? Say, oh, here's another good sign. 35 had the stuff, and the rest were just empty junk. Let me just try and see if I can delete these right out of the FBX. Nope, doesn't look like I can. But what I can do is I can go back down to prefabs. I can create a new prefab. Just to make things different, we'll call this rock island because it is kind of an island type shape. And I can drag this down here. And where my other object, the rock element group with all that extra artifacts, is still kind of an FBX pile. If I needed a new rock island, right, I've got one right here. I can pull that out, and it's got the single meshable object. So that's one way we can fix things inside of Unity after it's been exported. So I don't need this extra rock island. You know what? I don't need this one. But I don't want to mess with repositioning it to get it directly under that juggernaut. So I'm going to leave that. We've got the same problem here with this guy, but now we know how to fix it. So thanks, Jose, for being a good sport and letting us use this really cool model to demonstrate with. So now I've got rock element. I'm going to go to my inspector. I'm just going to add a mesh collider. And if you spell correctly, things always work much better. If I was going to add rigid body physics to this, where my gingerbread man could run into it and kick it across the screen, which would not make any sense, I would have to use this convex mesh collider. And as you can see, what that does is that makes it where none of our angles kind of go in on themselves. That's what convex is about. So nothing concave. So I couldn't even get up on this, right? So I mean, imagine this is now a force field. Okay, so when you put a convex mesh collider around this, I can only walk on the lines, or where those new imaginary polys exist. So we've created a force field. I don't need physics on this, so it's going to be a little more costly to have all this convex mesh collision on it, but I like it, so I'm going to keep it. I'm going to see if I can at least run up on there. I didn't fix the Juggernaut or the Guardian guy, so yep, need to fix the house too. Could just run right on that. All right, so I've got collision I can't just walk up it. Luckily we've got these cool hills around, so I can just get myself positioned. Yay. I'm in like Martian Stonehenge or whatever this is. This is really cool. All right, so I can't walk through that, but I can walk on things. sometimes with the current script I've got on this guy, he can jump really far if he's got enough momentum going, but not right now. And that is a huge juggernaut. All right, so we fixed that with this particular mesh, got it down to a single object for our prefab, and we were able to do some cool stuff. So let me go back and try and find that crazy vault wall. I need to add collision here. Guess what? Yep, I messed up too, right? So I've got cubes, I've got cylinders. I did combine all this into one object before exporting it, but I've still got a lot of history sitting here, right? So I've got doors and hinges and all the different elements that made up this, right? This is how these things happen. We don't start with a single cube to make everything all the time, right? We combine things, we boolean them sometimes, shutter, but that happens, right? So I've got this thing, and it's going to be very difficult for me to deal with. I can find the one object in there that is the combined object, and I could just live with it, but that's not what we're going to do. So I've got this models folder, right? Same thing, cubes, cubes, cylinders, cylinders, doors, spokes, and then the one object. So let me see. That's static. I could add some stuff just to this particular thing, but it doesn't fix that. And then the next person to come in to try and edit things has got to stop and wonder what all this means. So on the last model, we showed an in Unity quick fix. Let me just go back to Maya, where I had exported this from just moments ago, and show how we fix this before exporting. So jump up to Maya. Here's my vault wall, right? And without that editor open, it really just looks like I've got one object in here. Just one, actually. So, cool looking vault. It should have exported right. No. So here's what we do, right? So we can see we've got all these other pieces here. We've got the doors and the spokes and transforms on all of them, and all the components that we literally combined using mesh combine to get this one static object. Because system's offline, we're not going to open this door. So really all I have to do, keep an eye on this part right here, is I just grab my mesh that I'm right before export. I come over here to edit, delete by type, and history. Right now, we've seen that gets rid of all this mess over here, right? All the bevels and the projections and the UV flips and everything else I've done. But if we watch and do that here, it also gets rid of all the other artifacts on the side. So deleting that history before an export or before you do, anything significant is huge. So now I'm going to go ahead and re-export this. I called that last one vault wall artifacts because I knew I was going to have that. This one is vault wall fixed. Export that guy. And we'll go back to Unity. So I'm in my folder. Don't want to just dump things in the root asset folder. Go back out to Finder. I happen to have this particular window open. I'm going to pull in the new vault wall that's all fixed. Don't need that anymore. And we're still importing. All right, look at that. See the difference? We've got just the one object in there. The same FBM for the materials. Nope, a different one, right? Because we named it differently. But the materials stay the same. We just don't have all that extra junk. So I'm going to delete this guy. No, I'll leave him. I'll leave him for now. We'll delete him later, offline. So I've got this. I did also mess up, and I had my units defaulted to centimeters. So Let me fix this guy because I know it's going to be a problem. And pull out the new vault wall. And see, there's not even that little indication of hierarchy there. It's just one single object, not something that we open up and have all this other junk in. So that's how we fix that jazz. Before we export, I am noticing another issue. Does it exist on both of them? Yeah, for whatever reason, the back polygon, the back wall's busted. But we never expect to see that anyway. So I'm going to delete this from my scene. I've got the new one. I'll rotate him, drag him into place. And now it's going to be much easier. I can add a mesh collider. Actually, with this, I could add just a box collider because there's really not a lot that I could play with here. I mean, there's nothing to get caught on if I don't get too close. We'll keep it with mesh collider. Save the scene, and let's see how that does. I love getting to this phase in a project because you get to play. See, it looks a lot better. That basketball goal, I'm still a little tall for it, but it wasn't like when I ran by in the earlier video and I was just too tall. All right, I can't run into it. So I was able to put collision on this. Now that I got it collapsed down to one object and re-exported, we're going to have to come up with a cool way to get in there and maybe some backstory for why in the world there's a vault in the middle of this odd area we're in. But for the time being, that's our quick lesson. Too late already for quickness, but quick lesson on how to fix all those extra artifacts, either in Unity or fix it before you ever export from Maya. So I'm going to push these changes. And we'll see what we need to learn next time.